Well, hot diggity dang WrestleMania and Stand and Deliver and Prelude is all in the rearview mirror. Welcome to the season premiere, it seems, of professional wrestling. It's draped in gold across the ring and across the pond. We're bringing you all the action, the black and gold brand. It's your boy Flobo, Boyce Flo Beto. You can call me for nasty. And we're going to go through NXT Stand and Deliver, NXT on Tuesdays, NXT UK, and I'm saying NXT a whole lot, but it's so much more. But as always, I am not alone. I'm being joined by the man who brought back the Anytime Radio Show, and it was so great because I was on that too. Give it up for the man, Jack Farmer. What's going on, sir?
It has been a great week. You and I have been chatting almost nonstop, and for me, even though that's happened, I've still found a way to make it an okay week. I had a good time.
It's running on caffeine, right? Caffeine and dreams.
Running on caffeine and dreams. Yeah, we thought that things were going to slow down after WrestleMania week, but not for us, Flobo. I feel like we're still doing just as much as we were doing before.
I don't know how that works, man. You think of yourself, okay, once it's over WrestleMania, we're going to have a little bit of a letdown, but it's wrestling every day of the week now, the way schedules are realigning with Impact moving to Thursdays, NXT on Tuesdays. Bring me back to the SmackDown Live era. We're not going to sleep ever.
Nope. Nope. I can't wait for them to bring back Thursday Thunder just to keep it all consistent and continuous forever. Fight forever.
I had a feeling there's a time when they're doing the first brand split, they would have brought back WCW for that reason. Well, not the Ric Flair version, but like the, hey, look, we're on SmackDown, third brand, WCW. What would that look like? I just kind of wish for Thunder for the opening sequence with the lightning and the thunder and all that stuff.
I thought for a long time they should have, instead of having two WWE brands, if they wanted them separate, one of them should have been WCW. But now I have to just embrace the fact that WCW has been gone for so long, it doesn't matter anymore. Like
those kids don't know that.
No, I mean it's like, back in the Attitude Era, if they're like, well, we're going to bring back Mid-Atlantic as a brand, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Who's
fair?
You have to remember that time has passed and people don't care about the WCW name anymore. But at the time, I thought that they should have done that.
We're all going to be that guy asking for the old songs on the disco every once in a while. But let's get into it.
Staying alive.
You had that Backstreet Boys. I love them. All right, so NXT UK just got off fresh off the presses on Peacock, and I'm so glad whoever's running the video office at Peacock decided to put the video pushed out at 11:57 Pacific because it was there at noon. But let's talk about the main event first. Amir Jordan and Kenny Williams have a little bit of bad blood because, as Jack Farmer says, Kenny Williams was being held back. But Amir Jordan wants some retribution for being screwed over by his best friend, but did not get it. Now, Jack Farmer, I know you're a Kenny Williams guy, or at least you side with him here. Two questions. The first one, did the match live up to expectations? And two, what does Amir Jordan do now he's been beaten senseless?
Man, so Kenny Williams, first off, is a superstar with superstar looks, a superstar attitude, and superstar talent. Amir Jordan, he likes to dance. He likes to have fun. He likes to be silly. Well, here's a silly joke for him. Just the idea that he can be successful in a place as dangerous as NXT UK without Kenny Williams protecting him anymore. I have to admit, when I heard this match was happening, I expected it to be exciting, but I didn't expect them to just beat the hell out of each other the way they did tonight. But you want to know the difference between the two of them, Flobo?
Uh-oh.
Kenny
for sure.
went for the shoulder. He used the turnbuckles. He went for blood. Now, Amir did start off strong, trying to be aggressive, but his aggression was false. His aggression was make-believe.
False aggression?
It was Kenny's real killer instinct that was what separated them. But in Amir's defense, he can now sleep easy knowing that he lost without cheating.
Wow. Okay. So you're still saying it's cheating, though. Is that what you're saying? You're saying cheating.
I'm saying that that's what Amir believes.
I see that. I like how you backpedal. I love it. But look, man, Kenny Williams is the brand new. Are you shuffling back there? Look, Kenny Williams looks like he's on a roll now. It looks like he has Amir Jordan in the back and the rearview mirror, hopefully, if Amir Jordan knows what's good for him, you probably either attack him from behind or go to separate ways. But what does Kenny Williams do? For me, he was getting booked. Can I say the word booked? Is it an insider term? I'm going to use that word, booked. He was getting booked in these title matches, but now he's on his own. What's next for the vicious, the vile, the ne'er-do-well Kenny Williams?
Right now, the world is his oyster. I'm not exactly sure how big he is, but maybe he takes a shot at the cruiserweight title. Maybe he goes after the Heritage Championship. Hey, maybe he gets a new tag team partner. Or maybe he looks over at Walter and says, let's give it a shot. Why not? He could do whatever he wants. He doesn't have someone that's going to hold him back for some reason, like not wanting to be aggressive. He's NXT UK more than any other place is a place of aggression and toughness. And now Kenny can use those things to be successful in a way he couldn't. Kenny also has something that very few people do, and that's luck. And it is going in his favor right now.
Ooh. Lamb says, if Kenny Williams gets in his momentum, he could challenge for the Heritage Cup, which I can see that. Why not? I think he was in the tournament, actually. He played in, He was the 8th seed in there, and Fancy Jack is office casual again. Nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes he dresses like us mere mortals to make us feel better about ourselves. I appreciate that, Jack.
Yeah, this is my my workout gear. Put the collar.
My weekly tuxedo delivery is on its way.
But I think to Lamb's point, the first thing I think of when I think of what Kenny Williams would do next is Heritage title. I think him and A-Kid would have an amazing matchup.
Here's a question. If you're Amir Jordan, which I know you can't possibly fathom being in his shoes, but if you're Amir Jordan, do you continue to be yourself and be a good-natured and find someone that vibes with you in the tag division, or do you get a mean streak too to fight fire with fire?
The first thing I would do if I was Amir Jordan, what I would do right now is I would pick up my phone. I would text Kenny Williams the words, "I'm sorry.
Wow.
You were right."
That's not how that works. I was putting ice on my lumps, and I realized I had a change of heart. No, I'm saying, assuming they can't get back together, would you have Amir Jordan be himself still? Would you have him get a mean streak, get black tights, be all mean? Oh, what's up?
Right now, to Amir's credit, he stands out. He is different than everything else. And in a lot of times, that's what you need to make it in this kind of situation, because you need to be a reason for people to say, we want to see you on TV. So it works for him. But I think if he wants to start getting wins, he's going to need to find a way to be more aggressive. He's going to need to find a way to get wins instead of being himself. Sometimes you can't just be yourself. Sometimes you've got to find ways to be effective. And that's what he needs to work on right now, is finding ways to be effective.
Jack Farmer says, yourself, don't be yourself. We got to move on, though. in other action today, another Jack Stars had a match against my boy, Ashton Smith. With the help of Piper Niven, Jack Stars gets the win, which proves that Piper Niven is a dang good coach. Doesn't it, Jackery? Tell me why she isn't, because Jack Stars won tonight.
This was interesting to me. I loved watching this. This was your boy, Flobo, going against a guy that you believe has to learn how to train, which I'm not sure it works so well, because it seemed like Ashton Smith was still the more athletic of the two. That clothesline out of the corner made JL say, what the hell? That was such a big move. No disrespect to Stars, though. He's still looking to be in great shape right now, and he still has a veteran prowess and wherewithal. That said, Ashton just beat the hell out of Jack Stars most of this match, and I'd say Stars' win had less to do with his new training and more to do with his incredible toughness and wrestling know-how that gave him the win tonight. His first singles win in NXT UK. I think we need to say congrats to Jack Stars here. Really big night for him. He got a win. But I still don't think it's the training. I think it's because he knows what to do in the ring. He's been in there enough. He's trained hard enough as far as the strategy goes. I don't think it's because he's suddenly throwing around weight bags. I think it's because he's been training on wrestling.
It's funny you say it. When I was going to a boxing gym and we had a weight bag, it's filled with sand, right?
Yeah.
And my trainer called it Sandy. And if I ever dropped it, he'd be like, "Hey, She's a lady. you pick up Sandy with respect. So every time I see one, I always chuckle. Ashton Smith's Lariat is one of my favorite moves in NXT UK. It made me a fan. That would be his Y button signature if he was in the game. I love it. But I will say this. Jack did win based on leverage and balance. And you could argue the training we saw improved his balance. Not his strength, not his wherewithal, but Piper Niven gave him something using his weight for his own advantage. So maybe you got to give Piper some credit.
I think he has that weight and that leverage already. He's still the same size. It was the know-how of when to use, what to use, and how to use it that made the difference. And I haven't seen him and Piper reviewing tape ever.
You want to see that on NXT UK?
Yes.
Let's stop the match, go backstage and watch Jack Starks watch tape.
I want a 15-minute segment of them in a dark room watching tape.
See, that's a hammerlock. You should have went for the toe. That'd be the worst episode ever. We have to review it too. Like, wow, that was a great review of tape they saw.
The camera shot of them, by the way, is their face, and we see the back of the screen, so we don't even get to see the actual match. We just see them going,
The bootlegging of NXT UK footage. But speaking of things that are not bootleg and things that are original and fun and should have their own spinoff, the Supernova Sessions has another entry, this time with Gallus. The Gallus boys are on top where they used to be. And your boy Noam Dar had a bit of talking to, bringing them down, chopping it down until special guest makes his appearance. Your boy, Eddie Dennis, looking for a fight, bringing the former Hunt, I don't know what you call the group now, to beat up these people from behind. How can you defend Eddie Dennis the way he shows up on a show unannounced with his own microphone, bringing his boys to attack other guys who are looking for a fight from behind? Jack, how?
So much to unpack here. You act like him bringing his own microphone is a bad thing. It's called being prepared. It's called being smart and thinking ahead, Flobo. That's what Eddie Dennis is known for. When are we going to start giving Eddie Dennis his credit? He stared down Gallus and he took it right to him. Also, like a chess master, he didn't just try to shout them down. He had his team flank the opponents, and he took the king and the knights, brains, brawn, and everything else going on. Eddie Dennis proved again he is the man in NXT UK in every single measurable.
You know, the worst part about that statement is that I used to sit here on this show and be like, Eddie Dennis doesn't even know you're alive. But he does now. So I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Look, man, this guy is a snake going around causing the trouble and ruckus. Most people go up to Sid Scala or Johnny Stain for a matchup. This guy brings a fight on a very civilized programming that should win an Emmy or a BAFTA or whatever. Can you just say this for a second here? That is not the way you go about doing things. Can you admit that?
He's got a match next week. This was exactly what you're supposed to do. This is what I'm talking about, Flobo. You need to be aggressive in NXT UK. You don't just sit in catering waiting for an opportunity. You go out there and you take it. But also, you don't do it just willy-nilly walking out and picking fights. You plan it. He had that entire situation set up exactly how it needed to be. He pulled the strings and the puppets danced. For as big and dangerous as Gallus is, and look, I will say straight up, those guys are big and dangerous. Eddie Dennis had them right where he wanted them. They were beat before they even sat down on that couch.
For those of you on the audio version, my face is a mix of disgust and totally being relieved that we're done talking about Eddie Dennis, the scourge of NXT UK. But we have to move on.
Can we agree though, real quick? I think we do park our car in the same garage regarding one very important thing, and that is the Supernova sessions are a delight every single time, without question.
It's funny because it's almost like a between two ferns type deal. Like you know it's going to be awkward, but you want to know how it's going to be awkward, and that's what makes it fun. Yeah, for sure.
And it delivers in a whole new way every single time. Noam Dar killing it with this thing. I agree. I feel like that should be a show on its own. Like you have Raw talks, you have Talking Smack. You need supernova sessions to be on as part of every single NXT UK event. Maybe not right after NXT UK, because that's when we're on, but maybe like right after us.
Yeah, you can't tell them how to cancel us.
I'm counter-programming myself.
Oh, you can imagine Noam Dar and Paul Heyman in the same room.
Oh, that would be such a treat.
Like, what are you doing? So we got to move on. That's a dope idea, actually. We got to move on, though. In the women's division, Isla Dawn, this new version of Isla Dawn, more aggressive, more methodical, more cerebral, getting a bit of a payback against Amelia McKenzie. Now, you and I were talking about this during the match that was happening, about the future and the present, and how Isla Dawn about a year ago didn't have the most impressive win-loss record, but recently, I guess, aligning herself or being in the same space of Kaylee Ray has seen different heights. But Amelia is a little bit of a question mark in my book because she was very game. Her conditioning is off the charts, but she wasn't the victor tonight. Thoughts about the match, thoughts about the prospects of these two women, and thoughts about the women's division.
As a viewer, it's been really great watching this division regrow after Kaylee Ray cleared them out. Isla Dawn, embracing the power of the dark arts, has really seen like an unnatural growth and development lately. And Amelia McKenzie as well, in the course of just a few weeks, has become a contender. This was a great match. I think both came out looking strong. And honestly, I like the idea of a rubber match between the two. Because last week or 2 weeks ago, McKenzie was on the winning end. So correct. I would like to see them have a third match. I want to see who comes out on top after 3. But just for me, simply, this was just a great way. Again, you have a division that needed to build up some new people. And by just letting them fight it out and show what they can do, I think they both came out looking good tonight. This was a win-win for everybody involved.
Lamb continues. I was surprised that the match was already NXT UK so fast, which I agree. I think they have like a couple more weeks between parts in their storylines. And Isla got the victory. I don't hate the decision. I think you're right. I think having a rubber match situation, Jack, was the best way to go, because now we can see who's going to be the best one, whether it be a stipulation, whether Kaylee Ray will get back involved or not. But it was interesting to see how quickly McKenzie was dispatched. I mean, she was brought back as like almost like a celebrity spot. Oh my gosh, and then McKenzie's here, and the match was like, what, 6 or 7 minutes. So hopefully, if they do it again, we get a little bit more time to see what these women can do.
Yeah, and for some reason during this match, it really made me think about how, and again, I don't know why it was this match, but it made me think about how I can't wait for fans to be back and how all of this would probably be hitting even harder with fans there. So I thought it was a good match. I think Isla Dawn looking great, really starting to rack up some wins and really becoming a contender.
Just also in the women's division, we saw that little backstage segment with Ava Valkyrie and Sato Nakamura. Mako Satomore.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect dyslexia there.
Yeah, exactly. Thoughts about that, though? Because I had my concerns last week about here is a professional wrestler who's undefeated and should be the presumptive number 1 contender, but going out of her way to go after a legend. And you said, hey, look, that's fair game. Why not go after the biggest dog in the yard, even if it's not the champion per se in the legendary status of Satomura? But I am not convinced, Jack, after this one. I don't think if you are that good, Kaylee Ray should be your next step.
You don't think that after all Mako's done that she doesn't deserve the time of day?
I feel like it's in reverse. I feel like get the championship and prove you are the top champion by taking out the legend after the fact.
Well, I can't disagree with you there. The title is what it's always all about. That's all you should be caring about, is trying to become the champion. I get where Valkyrie's coming from. I think that's exactly, yeah. I get where Valkyrie's coming from. I get the idea of wanting it, but I actually agree with you. I think you need to go for the title. And I think the big issue with Valkyrie over the past few months has been that for some reason, she's not 100% secure in just how good she is. I don't know if it's because she's not gotten wins over the biggest of competitors. I don't know if it's because she just has that imposter syndrome, but I think that I agree. I think she should be going for the title. Hopefully, if she gets this match, and it looks like she will, she's able to get the win so that she can start getting the confidence she'll need to take on a Kaylee Ray. Because if you have any doubt in your mind when you walk out to the ring to face Kaylee Ray, you're going to fall short.
I agree with you. I agree. Jack's not wrong, which is very rare.
I've never been wrong.
asterisk. I want to thought about two of your favorite guys era of all time, Dave Mastiff and Sam Gradwell. Looks like they had a little bit of a dust up at the entrance at the Performance Center here. I like Sam Gradwell. He was on the losing end of his last two dust ups with talent, and Dave Mastiff is looking for a win. Not going to call these guys the bottom of the barrel because I'm afraid they'll might damage my face. But if these two guys got in the ring together, who would you give the edge to?
Yeah, what I love about the idea that these two might be getting into the ring together is you're right. These are two guys that both desperately need a win. They desperately need it. Taking an L from either one of them is going to be a hard L to swallow. And I also love them both. I love that Gradwell still talking smack, even as a guy is letting him into the building, talking smack to the guy that walked over to unlock the door for him. I love Sam Gradwell. I think that because Sam Gradwell has such a good mouth, is able to talk so well, I think he can survive any type of conflict, win, lose, or draw a little bit better than Dave Mastiff can. So I think Dave Mastiff might need this a little bit more. But that said, I think it's going to be fun watching these two clash. And I think if I had to pick a winner, I love Gradwell, but I think Mastiff is looking to start getting some wins again.
So I think you may ask my next question then, because you guys that don't know Jack Farmer, he is a man with many different investments, stock purchases all over the wrestling landscape. And he doesn't have shares in Gradwell and Dave Mastiff, but you know, these are conflicting segments. Would you sell one at this time? Would you hold them on to them both?
If I was to do any investing in these guys right now, I would say Mastiff. I feel like Mastiff is ready to come back to his winning ways. He's been on the down slope for a little bit, but I think the fact that he's been on a down slope has sort of woken him up a little bit. I think he knows that he needs to become aggressive again. I think he knows he needs to start getting wins again. And I think that's why he shut the door in Gradwell's face. I think he's sick of being a welcome mat, and he's not going to be a welcome mat for Gradwell. Gradwell, on the other hand, while I find him incredibly entertaining, I love the fact that he talks smack. Sometimes I think that gets in his way instead of getting wins like he's supposed to, and I think that's going to cost him.
Speaking of slides, Saxon Huxley, someone we haven't seen in almost a couple months, actually, had a match against Nathan Frazier, and Nathan Frazier was no slouch, an impressive victory, especially with that splash, but I think there should be more for Saxon. No, some of that size, strength, speed cannot put two wins together. Jack Farmer, walk me through this. What is wrong with the big man?
I like him. I like Huxley. He has the physical attributes to excel at the very highest level in this business. And he may actually be the toughest man on the toughest brand, but he needs to get his mind right. He needs to focus. He needs to strategize. He needs Eddie Dennis.
Oh, will you stop with that?
Could you imagine him standing with T-Bone and Primate? Would just be an animalistic powerhouse of a group with the smarts of a genius. And like the eventual fate of Planet of the Apes, the animals would overwhelm anyone that stood in their way. Flobo, whether or not you like Eddie Dennis, you got to admit, Huxley seems to check all the boxes of the kind of people that Eddie Dennis makes successful.
Eddie Dennis this, Eddie Dennis that. He can't be your answer for everything. He can't.
I'll show you.
Nathan Frazier. I think I'm all in. I'm all in on Nathan Frazier. I guess maybe I'm all about the black tights now, the black trunks, or the black flowy pants. Maybe it's different. I like him. I really think that he could be a very impactful player. And hopefully he doesn't get drafted to work with Eddie Dennis, because I'll be really upset.
Yeah, I think the only thing he's missing is Eddie Dennis.
Oh, no, you son of a mother.
I agree. I like the black tights. For some reason, I like them more now than I did even last week. But this was a great match to show that Frazier can do good things against bigger, meaner, and tougher opponents. Something that he's going to have to learn to deal with on this roster, because this is a big, strong, mean roster. And now that I know he can hang with the biggest guys, I want to see him get into the ring with someone who makes things a little personal. I want to see how he does against someone who kind of gets under his skin a little bit, because as you and I both know, we've watched a lot of wrestling. It's one thing to just beat a wrestler in a straight up wrestling match, but like Amir versus Kenny later in the night, when things get personal, it's a little different. And I want to see how Frazier handles that situation.
I do too, actually. I want to see how he emotes or he's a kind of like a methodical person to put feelings aside, or he's the kind of person to put his heart in his sleeve. That might be a good challenge. Before we move on to NXT Prime and all that jazz, any final words about UK this week?
I thought it was a great episode. I think it was better than I was expecting. Usually after something like a prelude, you've got the little bit of a downslope, but this was a really great episode. And really, these guys all just, again, I always say it, beat the hell out of each other. I thought Ashton Smith, I always give him a hard time because I know you're a fan of him, but he looked amazing today, even in loss. And I think Kenny Williams and Amir Jordan both just beat the crap out of each other. So that was fun to watch. And the women's matches were great. Everyone did really good today. This was a really solid episode with really solid showings from everyone who was on.
What's my final thought here? Look, Ashton Smith is my boy. And even though I'm not into fashion, I'm glad the singlet took a break. I love the short sights. The guy's strong. He's fast, has a unique look, loves football. I mean, you can't. Checks all the boxes as far as someone that can also do it in the ring and be an ambassador for the brand. He just got to get some dubs, and he'd be good to go. Ashton Smith for Prime Minister. It has to start right now. Hey, what up, Flat? Thanks for coming through.
Flat.
Moving on. Stand and Deliver Night 2, which, again, if you listen to last week's episode of Draped and Gold, we were in the weird position of being in between a pay-per-view. So we covered Night 1. Go back, check that out if you haven't already. It was a stat card. Some may argue Night 2 was superior to Night 1. Just some overall thoughts from you, Jack Farmer, about the event. Anything that stood out to you, all that jazz?
Yeah, I thought it delivered on all levels. From the opening ladder match that I predicted would steal the show, and I think it did steal the show. I thought the women's tag team match with Shotzi risking life and limb, Karrion Kross reestablishing himself as the NXT champion, and the war between Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. Well done all around. I agree with a lot of people. I think Night 2 stole the week. I thought it was the better of the two shows, and I thought it was amazing.
Just before we get into the bigger questions, the ladder match to me was my favorite. Even though the unsanctioned match was the one that had the most emotion.
Yeah.
And I know it's a moot point now, but did they get it right of having Karrion Kross, having Santos Escobar becoming the undisputed Cruiserweight champion?
I think so. I think we'll talk about it a little bit, but I think that the main thing here now, I've always been a fan of Santos Escobar. I think he is one of the best cruiserweights in the world. I think he should be the champion. I think he represents what that championship is. I think that now Jordan Devlin is actually free of the cruiserweight title, and it allows him to do some other things. I will probably be saying that a little bit later in the show, depending on how this goes. Sure. But I think in a way that's good for him. It's now sort of back to the United States as far as where that title is going to be defended. And I think that there was a lot of good stuff that happened there. And again, we'll probably talk about it a little bit later, but overall, I think it was definitely the right outcome.
So this is the first ever 2-night takeover. There's like 2-night special event shows that happened. And it was the biggest takeover ever reviewed, although that's kind of a skewed statistic because half of it was on basic cable. Just thoughts about that. Is 2-night pay-per-views a thing that they should look at more? And that could be a WWE question. It could be an NXT question. Or is it kind of like, nah, leave that for Wrestle Kingdom. Just keep it one night, make it easy peasy, fresh and squeezy.
I think 2 nights is great, but it's got to stay to only like WrestleMania weekend. It can't be every takeover. Otherwise it becomes lame. Kind of like, Hell in a Cell is great, but then when it's just every single year at the same time, it starts to become a little bit of like it's Hell in a Cell time. I think it needs to be something special. And so if it's during WrestleMania week and they do this WrestleMania week, great. I love it. But if it's something that happens every 3 months for TakeOver, then it's going to start to wear thin. It's going to start to get old, and you're going to start to have a lot of matches that don't feel TakeOver level. Sure. And it's going to start to water it down. So once a year, yes. Every time, no.
Kind of related. If you were the Chargers kind of thing, would you keep the special branded nights still now? Not that we have 2-night takeover, a possibility 2-night takeover. Would you keep a Great American Bash or Halloween Havoc or any of those?
Sure. Why not?
Why not?
I don't think they overdid them either. It felt like they were happening every now and again. It just made things feel a little special here and there. So I liked them. I think why not? And that way you don't have to force your takeovers to have a Halloween thing, but you still get to do something for Halloween because those are fun times, right? So I like them.
As somebody who was not that impressed with Halloween Havoc as a kid, the last Halloween Havoc is still. I was a WWE guy. I'm sorry. Well, it was great in the video game. I really love NXT's version here with Shotzi Blackheart. It had a very kind of like Elvira vibe. Lamb says, for WrestleMania, it would be smart to having 2 cards or takeovers. No, it's hard to say because this year was a whole lot of wrestling. And he continues the problem in New Japan as the IWGP champ has defended the title both nights in 30-minute matches. Too much for the performance. That's true. A lot of people, even before the pandemic, would say, hey, look, the talent has to travel a lot. But if you think about the actual time a wrestler who is a champion in WWE actually wrestles over promo time or backstage time, they do try to spell some of their talent, which is an unsung thing WWE does right. But we don't give praise or we don't poo-poo on things. We just state facts on the show. And this is a season premiere. NXT, kind of a way, soft reboot. I was telling you before, it had like a rock club vibe. There's like skulls in the logo now. Just lots of presentation as we go into the first night of this new era.
Yeah, I thought it was good. The episode was very story and promo heavy, it seemed. And to me, that tells me they're trying to reestablish their narratives and the individuals that they offer here on NXT. Also, the new logos and the new branding. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the new logo. I mean, it's fine, but it feels a little Affliction shirt to me.
Oh, yeah.
But that also seems to play right into a lot of the style of NXT with the heavy metal music they typically have and whatnot. So it fits into the brand. I like the more simplistic looks, but whatever.
I'm a bit torn. I like the fact they have the embellishments, like the rosary stuff, or like the wood carving or whatever, the metal carvings on the screens and the transition wipes. But yeah, like I can imagine being like 11 and having that logo, my mom coming home from Bible study being like, what the hell is that? No, Mom, look, it's wrestling. Who's that? Shotzi Blackheart, stop. All right, so.
Oh, yeah.
Let's start the main event all the way around. Dexter Lewis, Bronson Reed, Shotzi Blackheart, and Ember Moon against The Way, which is apparently yours and Adam Ghazi's favorite tag team. But Bronson Reed gets the victory. I had 2 thoughts about this. 1, The Way doesn't really have a muscle. And 2, Indy Hartwell getting her man.
So this is just another example of how William Regal doesn't know how to handle his business on NXT Prime. The fact that this turned out the way it did shows that clearly no one has control over there, because The Way should have won via DQ early on when the tag team champions forgot the rules and hit Johnny Gargano when they weren't supposed to. The men and the women aren't supposed to interact, but that didn't stop them. They still attacked him. Should have been a DQ there, but no, it continued. Then later on in the match, when Dexter Lumis, the legal man, left the ring while holding the non-legal Indy Hartwell and walked away, should have been a count out. So twice that team should have lost. That said, you got to give Indy Hartwell some credit. The bravery it takes to go undercover to try to sneak in and infiltrate the life of Dexter Lumis as an undercover agent is so brave of her, but also shows how predictable Dexter Lumis is, because we all know he can't stop kidnapping. He can't help himself. So he kidnapped her again, but hopefully she'll be able to learn some things that they can use to stop Dexter Lumis going forward.
Going undercover, huh? That's what they call it. Look, man, it's a beautiful thing in wrestling, man. Love is in the air. It's spring. Dexter Lumis and Indy Hartwell will probably stare creepily in each other's eyes for hours on end, man. I mean, come on. Don't be poo-poo on that.
Who blinks first, you think?
Oh, I don't know. That's really cool. Yo, chat, let me know if Indy Hartwell was in a staring contest with Dexter Lumis, who would blink first? That's the question I have. I don't know. I think Indy went with the lashes. She'll flaunt the lashes a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah, I mean, look, good on Bronson Reed for getting a win, but I think he probably got backstage and was like, guys, we should probably tell William Regal we need to reverse the decision here. We cheated twice.
Really?
And they cheated. Unlike Kenny Williams, they cheated.
Sometimes the things go in your favor and you don't know to realize it later. It's not cheating. Like if you go home and realize, hey, the cashier gave me $3 extra, you get back in the car and drive back and go, here's the money back that you gave me.
Dexter Loomis literally walked away from the match. How was he not counted out?
It's an 8-person tag. There's almost no count as an 8-person tag. That's almost impossible.
He's the legal man.
But that doesn't happen in wrestling ever. None of the brand or the video game. There's no count out. Unless it's a Survivor Series.
Not when William Regal is letting everything be all willy-nilly cuckoo bananas. That's what happens when you have someone who doesn't have control over their company, doesn't have control over the referees, doesn't have control over the rule book. The way it plays by the rules, they always have. And that's the thing. That's why they're getting shorthanded here, is because they're trying to do things the right way and they're getting cheated.
Not only are you wrong, you ended it with a pun. Let me ask you this question, Jack. How many payrolls are you on? Imperium, Eddie Dennis, Johnny Gargano? Come on, man. They want, you know what? I'm moving on because I don't want to deal with this anymore. Because you know the way you're wrong. They've always been wrong. Nothing's ever going to change. It's the way it's going to be.
I will never count out a family that puts their hands in together and says the way and throws their hands up.
Do you do that at your family reunions?
I do that everywhere I go.
That's kind of
social distancing has been very hard for me.
Aryan man doing high fives at random strangers. So moving on, we have a little bit of a cool moment here in the women's division for two different reasons. Raquel Gonzalez, the new NXT Women's Champion, comes out and states her dominance. But one, we get the appearance of Frankie Monet, and she has a little bit of an agenda here. But two, we also see Bianca Belair, and not to mention the new Raw Women's Champion Rhea Ripley coming out for a photo op moment that was pretty awesome, blew up social media. So I know, always lots to unpack here, but it does seem that there's a target on Rhea Gonzalez. I am messing up words today. Raquel Gonzalez.
That'd be a dangerous mix of people, right?
Just take my money now, man. Raquel Gonzalez has a target on her back on one end, but on the other hand, hey, it was kind of cool to see the future being now.
Yeah, so you're right. There's a ton to unpack here. I'm going to start off with just the very beginning, and that is just Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. I know there's been a narrative about Raquel Gonzalez over the past few months and about how, how you're supposed to react to her, but how do you not cheer her right now? With the hard work, the gym time, the grueling matches, I think she's earned this. I think she's beaming, and I think the crowd loves her, and she deserves it just as they cheered. I loved the story about her not being ready for the first episode on USA. I loved getting to hear that story and that message. It made me invest in her even more. And I like that she continued to give Dakota Kai credit even when she's on top of the mountain. I thought this was a great moment as we're just talking about Raquel Gonzalez, because this is mainly her moment. I thought that was really cool of her. I thought it was a cool moment for her. And again, regardless of what the narrative has been before, how do you not just love Raquel Gonzalez at this point?
I feel like such a hipster about it, because when she was Reina Gonzalez and she was the cowgirl, I was like, yeah, give her a shot. And no one did. And now everyone's on the bandwagon. I'm like, you know what? I was here first. So I'm kind of salty about it. But hey, look, she deserves it. She's been putting the work in. Mae Young Classic veteran. And you don't get to be a part of that unless you don't have the chops. So shout out to that. But yeah, back to my original point, Jack, was between her and Zoe Stark, who won a match against Toni Storm last week on the NXT, I won't say prelude, but the pre-show to Stand and Deliver. And not to mention, maybe Io Shirai is also in the mix, and Mercedes Martinez looking for an opportunity. The target's on her back, but she has to deal with Frankie Monet and Puppy making her debut. Thoughts?
Yeah, I thought Frankie Monet, great entrance when it comes to the lighting, the music, and of course the timing. Debuting across from the unstoppable world champ means big things are popping for Frankie. But my question is, what's the dog's name? I want to know what the dog's name is. Did they say it?
Not on camera, no. I think I gotta ask Emily what the dog's really name is, but I'm not sure if it has an on-camera name yet.
Yeah, Emily knows all that stuff. I mean, do you think that WWE made the dog change its name too?
I think so. Remember when
that's probably true. It's just funny.
Rene Dupree had a dog and he named it Fifi because he was French, which is kind of offensive. But hey, you know what happens.
But I guess I always assumed that was just always the dog's name is Fifi.
What about Pepper? Al Snow's dog Pepper? It wasn't actually named Pepper.
That's so funny. It's funny to change a dog's name for the show, but I think Frankie's going to be great. Anyone who knows who Frankie Monet is knows that she's great, knows that she's talented, knows she's going to be a lot. I do want to make sure, though, I talk about what I've dubbed the Women's Champions Summit today, if that's okay.
You branded it. I can't say no.
If I just jump to that, because I don't know how the show goes, and I it's always tough because you don't want to step on someone else's transitions, but you also don't want to miss something if it's important. I thought it was so cool. First, Rhea Ripley coming out. I popped super hard when her music hit, and then Bianca Belair. And I'm sure there are people who may question why they're all out there and why they're all supporting each other when they don't necessarily all live on the same side of the track, so to speak,
or the state.
But I loved it. I thought it was just an amazing feel-good moment that made all three of them seem like bigger stars. And that picture of them getting their start behind them was one of those very real, very beautiful moments. And I loved it. And I know it may seem almost kind of corny, but I still thought it was great. I thought it was proof that the NXT women's division is the greatest women's division on planet Earth. And I'm really glad they did it. And the fact that they did it on the NXT show as opposed to one of the other shows, again, is just, I think, a tip of the hat to how important NXT is to every division in WWE.
I am torn because what you said. I feel like the moment was really cool to see all three champions and see that delightful young picture of everyone together.
Yeah.
But there's a selfish part of me that wanted that to be on SmackDown because it's the biggest audience to show that, look, these women came from this, but I understand that they cut their teeth or apply their craft or whatever euphemism you want to use on NXT. So like it made sense. But like, dang, I want to see like the Fox Sports people go, oh my gosh, you know.
But see, that's the thing is I think to your point, I get what you're saying because more people see it, the better. But I think that's the point is the women's division that rules the world is the NXT women's division. So if you're going to do a women's champion summit, you go to NXT. NXT does not come to you.
Was there like talks and refreshments at the summit?
It was just stale donuts and bad coffee.
Oh, I've been to Dakota of those. Yeah. The Starbucks box has been out there for 4 hours.
Right. That you know isn't good, but you get some anyways.
Right. With the thimble sized cups.
Yeah. And you go the styrofoam ones and you always go, and then you try to put in the creamer and sugar to try to cover up the terrible taste, and it doesn't work.
I thought it was just me. I was like, why do you keep buying this?
Stir it with a little straw.
There's certain things you should never do. Don't do that with a 4-pound tub of red vines. Why do we do this? So I'm off topic. Welcome back to Snack Food Weekly. It's your boy Flo Pizza.
Yeah.
Speaking of the women's division, we had a little bit of a match here because Mercedes Martinez, which she wants her money, which I don't quite understand why, because she got paid to be in a match. She didn't win the match. She's not over the second half. So she wrongfully put her hands on Aaliyah, but my girl, Jessica Kamea comes up, says, I can't stand that, fights valiantly, but it was all for naught. Mercedes Martinez looking to be the case for the first challenge for Raquel Gonzalez NXT Women's Championship. If you were Regal because you want him fired, Jack, would you do that first?
Well, if I was Regal, I probably wouldn't do anything because that's how Regal does things.
But put Eddie Dennis as assistant general manager.
Eddie Dennis would be a great general manager. I loved this. I love that. First off, I got to give some credit to Jessica Kamea really stepping up by literally stepping up to Mercedes Martinez. Mercedes isn't someone you step up to lightly, but Jessica Kamea did. And look, it wasn't the most competitive match of the night, but I would say when you're someone that is still trying to make a name for yourself like Jessica Kamea is, and you get in the ring with a Mercedes Martinez, that's still a good showing. That's still good stuff. So good on her. I think the message, though, is when you have to choose between paying Mercedes or buying diamond gloves, you pay Mercedes Martinez, or you get choked out and have the money pulled from your hands because she is the most dangerous woman in that division. And even if you're the unstoppable Raquel, you need to be very careful with this one.
Yeah, look, if you gotta go buy the gloves, don't flaunt the gloves, baby. That is owing people money 101.
Right.
You gotta go. I'm sorry, man. I'm going through some stuff. Don't be like, look at my hands. It's
Yeah,
just,
you don't show up to their work wearing
hey, look at my hands. I agree with you. I felt in some ways Jessica Maya went back to a 2019 look and moveset, which is what I like to see from her. I thought there was a little bit of a time we're trying to figure out what she looks like. The fact that she had a bit of a story here today, like to your point, usually she comes out there and she gets beat, but now she got beat for a purpose and reason. Which, if you ever watch NXT, if you try to step up to somebody who's aggressive, you're going to lose. We saw Amir Jordan do that. We saw Kaden Carter do that. Jessica Maya was totally wrong in doing that, but the fact she went for it only says good things. She may be on that block for the next crop of women to elevate.
Yeah, I agree. She's definitely someone who's in a position where she's ready to step up. I think she's ready to make that move. Again, though, I think it's so crazy. How did NXT lose Bianca Belair, lose Rhea Ripley, and still have a backlog of super killer women at the top of their division? How do they do it?
I will say this, and this is for both NXT and NXT UK. Week to week, they'll give you the multiple matches, which is like bread and butter. But there's so many other promos for people that you forgot about. Like Zoe Stark, for example. Zoe Stark was on a couple weeks. She's pretty good. Didn't have a lot of wins. She got a pre-show match, which if you watched it, great. It was pretty solid. Beats Toni Storm, who was a former champion. But then if you missed it, they say, oh, by the way, last week I did this thing. Check it out. I mean, it's not hard. It just comes down to how much time how efficient you want to be with your time. And I know it's a little easier for NXT because they don't have as much of like match flows or slam of the nights and all that. But it's just, I don't know. What both NXT brands do is amazing.
Yeah, it's very, I guess, it's just not letting us forget about people. And there are other divisions, I think that's their weakness, is they let us forget about people. But you're right. Even Zoe Stark and her standing up to Mercedes Martinez, which, by the way, when that match happens, and it will happen, is going to be fantastic because those two are both amazing. They're both super athletes and they're both aggressive. So that'll steal the show whenever it's on.
True. I'll steal the show, but you know also steal the show for me, and I hate to admit this, but you know what's steal the show for me? The line from the now former cruiserweight champion Santos Escobar when he said he was a legend lucha libre, just like my father was, just like my son will be, and I felt it, bro. I felt like he was an institution, but it was all for naught. Had a match against Kushida, and Kushida is now your new cruiserweight champion. Tough luck for the former undisputed cruiserweight champion, Jack. He was on top of the world, top of the ladder, and now looking at defeat.
I loved that promo, and I literally wrote down that same line. That is one of the best lines issued in a promo in a very long time. Not because it's clever, not because it sounds cool, but because it gave weight to Santos Escobar. And that moment when his son was out there, it felt very real now. Like, yes, you are from a family of champions, and this is how the next generation starts. It was such a cool thing, and it backed up everything he said about who he is at a much more real level than just what he says and how he dresses. I loved that he was able to win the title, do this promo, and show why he's one of the best in the world tonight with the moves like the Boston Crab on the steps and his general ring awareness throughout. Even in the loss, and I rarely say this, I think it means bigger titles are on the line for someone like Santos Escobar down the road, much like Jordan Devlin in a way. I think this frees up Santos Escobar to allow him to move more freely instead of having to just defend this title anymore.
I think it's a good problem to have. See that both men, Devlin and Santos Escobar, were supposed to be cruiserweight champions in their own right, but in doing so, they're in their own way become such marquee acts that they with them on, to your point. But I will say this. I've been tough on Santos Escobar for a lot of reasons, namely because I didn't know what he was. But I will say two things did for me over the past year, and that was the promo backstage against Swerve a couple months ago when we were talking about the legacy of Lucha Libre, and that line tonight. For those of you who don't know, first time to the show, when it comes to wrestling for me, I always do character, wrestling moveset, and the storyline. when you have someone say a line like that, you know exactly why Santos Escobar does it. Once I know why, I'm willing to go through storylines I don't particularly care for. I don't clench my fists and go, the writers, because I know the character is going through a weird story. But when you say I'm doing this like my dad did it and my son will do it, bro, I'm on board. I'm on board. Yeah. And that totally erased the saltiness I had on Sunday or Thursday of him beating Jordan Devlin in that ladder match.
Yeah, that could be a career-defining moment for everything he is. And bold statement from Adam, by the way. But
for the audio version listeners, Adam says he can get more to Escobar than Andrade. Continue.
That's a bold statement. I love them both. I will say, though, right now, Santos Escobar, I've said before, one of the coolest guys in pro wrestling, probably the character I like the most in WWE right now.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. I love everything about the way he looks. And like I said, man, I can't understate how powerful that comment was. Because you're right. Like it makes, now I know exactly who he is. And it's so much bigger than who he is all at the same time. So he's been hanging with some of the bigger guys already. I think now he's going to make that move up a weight class and start having some matches with some bigger fellas and maybe get some heavier gold.
Lamb asked the question, Santos Escobar over Eddie Dennis, Jack Farmer?
That's a fantastic question.
And we'll stop the show until you answer.
That's what I want to talk about. Is Kushida, though.
The deflection. 1,000 points.
I want to ask your opinion on something here, Flobo.
Yeah.
How do you feel about him going back to the tights, but still wearing the sneakers?
So, Fashion Report. When he came out wearing tights, I'm like, oh, he's winning this. Because it's what I noticed, and I actually had it in my notes, because in the first match of the night was MSK versus like Maverick and Killian Dane. I'm like, I am tired of guys wearing jeans. Because like Maverick wears his pads over his jeans, and I'm like, there's too many guys that do that. I like the fact when Kushida wore his jeans, it made it uniquely him, but it also made him look bigger. So when he came out in tights, I was like, oh, I get it. This is probably something else. So I guess I'm enjoying it as a harbinger of what he's going to do in this division. So I'm okay with it. But I do like the last look he had.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just need to get used to it. It felt like the tights he had didn't go together. Like everything individually looked cool. The knee pads look cool. The boots look cool. The trunks look cool. But it doesn't look like it's like when you get WWE 2K and you're doing career mode and you haven't unlocked everything yet. And so you're using, you kind of have to use what's available. And so I feel like I get the look, but those sneakers don't look like they fit with that outfit. And the same with the knee pads and things. But you're right. It did feel very much like, oh, okay, you don't just change your outfit for nothing and then lose. But I think that I love seeing Kushida as the champion here. I love seeing him with this. I think that right now the cruiserweight division is better than it's been in a very long time. And I think Kushida's the kind of guy that's going to keep it up at a high level. You know, sometimes the cruiserweight division, it's great. And then someone gets it and they kind of disappear off onto 205 Live or whatever it is. And then we don't hear from him for a long time. Kushida's someone who's going to keep this relevant and keep it as a big title. And I think that this is a great way to now bring it to another dimension and take it out of the Escobar era and put it into the Kushida era, which I don't know what time frame that is. I don't know if that's future.
I was like, oh, he didn't make a time reference. You saw. I feel like I'm gonna have a chart of all the Eddie Dennis's ass kissings and all the time references. I'm gonna add them up, Lead the Week style, our sister show, and find out how many points Jack Farmer is gonna get. But speaking of points, Imperium is going to expand, which is something you've been advocating for over a year, quite honestly. And they're finally listening to you. So I guess you're in the Imperium too. So I put that on the little category as well. Walter's doing it. He's Thanosing all these guys. It looks like either Killian Dane, maybe even Timothy Thatcher maybe coming into this group. What say you? Who do you want to see?
They had this video. They said they are expanding, that they're growing. And as you said, this is what I have been prophesizing for a year now, and now it's coming true. Flobo, I want Thanos to just stand aside because he's nothing. I want Darkseid to stand aside because he's nothing. My friends, Walter is coming, and he is going to change everything. This is the biggest news possibly, and I'm not one for hyperbole, the biggest news ever in NXT history.
That's all kinds of hyperbole. Are you kidding me?
Nah,
bigger than Move to Tuesdays? Bigger than Takeover? Bigger than Halloween Havoc?
Bigger than all of it. Bigger than all of it. Here comes Walter. He's taken over. This isn't the black and gold brand anymore. This is the Walter brand. This is the Imperium brand. They're going to have to do just like they did in WCW, where it became WCW/NWO. They're going to have to change the name of the show to Imperium/NXT.
I will play the hell out of that video game. Can't lie. Speaking of NXT, though, new NXT champion Karrion Kross cuts what they call a promo. Well, he's a champion again, TikTok and all that, but it seems that he wants to be a fighting champion or a destructive one. Thoughts about that real quick before we wrap this up?
I thought this was the right person to start the show on a new night, and it felt like they were sort of welcoming people over who maybe spent their Wednesdays watching a different show and now had time to watch NXT. I think Karrion Kross looks the part. He has the best entrance in pro wrestling right now, and I don't think there's anyone else on the roster that can lay out an open challenge for the world title and have no one come out to answer it right away. So this was a great way to start the show. I think it set the tone, and it was well done.
A couple of news and notes before we hit the road. I want your opinion on these in kind of a rapid fire thing. We got a promo for the War of the Suns. Sarai will making her debut next week. Thoughts?
I think this is great. I think it's great that I love how they already sort of compared her to Io Shirai and Asuka and Kairi Sane, and basically let us know, look, we bring superstars over from Japan, and this is going to be no different. So already very high expectations for her, and I'm excited to see what she does on the greatest women's roster in all of pro wrestling as well.
Leon Ruff gets a little bit of aggressive after his loss to Swerve. He's getting all kind of feisty. Thoughts about Leon Ruff?
I wish he would leave Swerve alone and let Swerve live his own life. Ruff is fine. He's a good guy, but it's time for him to do something new and let Swerve grow instead of trying to hold him back all the time, the way he always seems to do. Let Swerve go on and become a world champion. Let Swerve run his own house because it's Swerve's house. Leon Ruff needs to go find something else to do. Leon Ruff needs to maybe go challenge Pete Dunne. Maybe go challenge Kushida. Maybe go challenge someone else. But leave Swerve alone so that he can be the top-level competitor that he is.
Completely false. Roderick Strong retires. Tells Regal, I am done, son. And by the way, I know you hate Regal, but please get that guy in office with a window. He deserves it. Thoughts?
If I was Roderick Strong and I saw that William Regal was running the show, I'd quit too. But
I served that one up. I can't believe I did that.
No, hopefully this means better things for Roderick Strong. What's interesting about it as a viewer is so much can happen with this, right? Like, does it mean that maybe he'll be gone for a little bit and come back? Does it mean that he'll maybe find a partner and come back? Is he going to a different brand? What's going on with Roderick Strong? So I'm fascinated. I've got all the time in the world for Roderick Strong. I think he's one of the most underrated people on NXT, and he looked great in a suit today.
Actually, no, it was a good suit. I was going to laugh at you, but no, that was a pretty. If we had a best dressed category, I would totally put him in there.
Yeah.
Because if you guys listen to our sister show called The Lead of the Week on the Jack Farmer Network, there is a list and there's actually a category for the best dress of the night, which I somehow always get wrong, even though Christian Cage should be in every single category because he's a legend. Before,
we don't have enough time.
Did you just growl at me? What was that? Before we hit the road, Jack, we're almost at that time. We got to go out there and watch more wrestling because it never stops. It's now time for my favorite part of the show. It's the MVP of NXT. It's that one person or tag team or staff member on either NXT or NXTUK or eventually Japan or India that stood out for you in a way that makes you go, dang. Who you got?
This is a weird one for me, but I think I'm going to go with Santos Escobar. I know he lost. like I said, so it's a weird one to pick, but I think that line that he said is going to have such a significant impact on who he is going forward that it makes the loss seem very minor in the grand scheme of things.
Well, again, it seems that it happens that you and I are in agreement. Santos Escobar did the thing, stole the show in a quote unquote lesser title division with a ladder match that was different and fresh, even though he dropped the belt. Can we say that term? Lost? Yeah. I don't know. Again, his establishment, what he has, who he is, and what he will be, and the match itself was 2 high-profile matches in a week's time. I think it's Santos in a runaway. If I'm being honest with you. Raquel Gonzalez would be a nice runner-up, but I got to give it to Santos Escobar this week. And yeah,
Kenny Williams would be my runner-up because he proved himself right.
You know, you want, and then he did it because he's always did it. Jack Farmer, final thoughts and where in the world can find you? You know the deal.
Another great week of pro wrestling, and life is good. Of course, you can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media, and I'm a busy fella. I've got Championship Wrestling from Hollywood this weekend, which you can find on KDOC locally here in LA, or Fight TV, or on YouTube streaming. You can also check me out on Elite of the Week. As you mentioned, we count down the top 10 wrestlers on AEW Dynamite. Also do the Anytime Radio Show, where we count down the top 10 songs of the week as well. I clearly have a thing. And you join me as a special guest on that episode. It's the first time I've ever had a special guest. So if you want to see 2 professionals try to figure out how to do something new, that's a good episode to listen to. But finally, I am officially the new host for the Raw Aftershow on Wrestling Inc. So
you deserve
if you watch
it.
WWE Raw every week, tune into Wrestling Inc. afterwards, and you'll get to hear me do basically what I just did now, except for WWE Raw. It's fun. Do it.
Do it. Flappuccino says, Flobo versus Jack, Thumb wrestling match later this year. Look, Flap, I've been playing so many hours of Rocket League ahead of the MLE season. My thumbs are shot. They are calcified, so I'm going to win because these are like weapons at this point. I'm just letting you know. It's not fair.
I thought you were going to show your thumb. It was going to have like a 6-pack on your thumb. So big and strong.
Beach body season. My thumbs are hot. All right, let's get out of here, yo. It's your boy Flopito. DrapedandGold.com is this show. I'm here every Thursday. If you want to see me and follow those Rocket League exploits on my thumbs, at Novanta RL. Emily season is back, so make sure to stick around for more Rocket League coverage. But in all times, I'm also at Flopito.com. That's FLOPITO.com. But Jack Farmer, until next week, say the words.
Do your best and be yourself.